They thought Deion Sanders was finished. They said the spotlight finally caught up to him, that the health issues were piling up, that the man who built his career on flash and swagger was running out of fuel. The whispers grew louder each day. Rumors of surgeries, missed practices, and a body breaking down. Some even said his coaching days were numbered. But what they forgot is this: Deion Sanders has never lived by their timeline. He has never played by their rules. He doesn't need permission to exist in the spotlight. He is the spotlight. And when the noise was at its peak, when the critics circled like vultures, Prime responded the only way Prime knows how, without a word. No press conference, no teary apology, no explanations, just a single video. Deion at home in Texas, walking slowly across his ranch, arm in arm with none other than Lil Wayne. That limp wasn't weakness, it was a scar from battle. That smile wasn't denial. It was the look of a man who has been tested 1,000 times and never stayed down. While the world was writing his obituary, he wrote a reminder. You don't cancel resilience, you don't bury purpose. The doubters didn't understand then, and maybe they still don't. But that was just the beginning. Reports came out that Sanders was back in Texas battling serious illness. USA Today and ESPN confirmed what fans feared. His health was fragile, his body had dropped weight, and he missed Colorado's critical summer camp. For any coach, that would be alarming. But for Prime, it became headlines of doom. Rumors flew. Blood clots, infections, something worse. He wasn't just away from the facility. He was absent during a rebuild, a time when every practice matters. The vultures loved it. They circled, they speculated, they smiled. And yet, behind every whisper was something uglier. Would a white coach in this position have faced the same hysteria? When Lincoln Riley missed time, the media offered sympathy. When Nick Saban looked tired, they framed it as stress. But Deion, suddenly every absence, every limp, every ounce of silence became ammunition. The narrative wasn't concern, it was expectation. They weren't asking, is he okay? They were asking, is he finished? Because a black man in power who refuses to bend to the system doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. He gets the blade. The double standard is nothing new for Sanders. As a player, he was branded cocky, arrogant, too flashy to be respected. He danced in the end zone, wore chains, celebrated his greatness, and for that, he was vilified. Brett Favre could sprint around like a kid after touchdowns and be called joyful. But when Deion brought music and swagger, he was branded selfish. The truth is, the NFL never knew how to handle prime time. And now in coaching, the script hasn't changed. At Jackson State, they said he was just chasing clout. When he left for Colorado, they said he abandoned the very culture he elevated. They never celebrated the leap, only condemned the ambition. But here's the part they never say out loud. Deion didn't leave the culture. He carried it with him. Grills, gospel, rap, and confidence. He brought an unapologetic blackness into a space that prefers its coaches humble, quiet, and deferential. That's why the knives are always out. Because Prime refuses to bow. When Sanders went silent, the vultures thought they won. But the silence wasn't retreat, it was reset. And when that video dropped, the one with Lil Wayne, it wasn't about publicity, it was about presence. In the middle of speculation, in the middle of illness, Deion didn't ask for sympathy. He delivered proof. Proof that even with a limp, even with scars, he was still standing. Proof that the energy surrounding him isn't about weakness, it's about faith. Lil Wayne wasn't there to boost Prime's image. He was there as a friend, a brother, a reminder that real ones stand close when the world steps away. And in that single clip, without a word, Sanders told the world, "I'm still here, and I'm still him." The limp showed his body had been tested. The smile showed his spirit never broke. That video wasn't a farewell, it was a warning. The media didn't see it coming. They wanted proof of his downfall, but instead, they got proof of his resilience. Because Deion Sanders isn't just coaching football. He's breaking molds, threatening an establishment that has never known what to do with a man like him. At Jackson State, he turned HBCU football into a national conversation. He recruited 5-star talent. He brought cameras, sponsors, and pride back to a culture long ignored. The critics called it a stunt, said it wouldn't last. Then he left for Colorado, inherited a 1-win team, and turned Boulder into the most talked about spot in America. And what was the reaction? Not respect, not admiration, fear. Fear that he was succeeding in ways they never allowed for men like him. Fear that he was rewriting the rules without their approval. They said he wasn't a real coach, just a personality. They said he cared more about Instagram than X's and O's. But beneath those excuses was something deeper. Prime was making it cool to believe in yourself again. And that was dangerous. Because if belief spreads, their grip loosens. They want him gone because he doesn't fit their mold. But Prime has never fit molds. He destroys them. And while the cameras chased rumors, the real ones stayed close. His mother, his sons, his brothers in the game like Michael Irvin. They never left his side. And of course, his faith, the anchor that's carried him through every storm. Deion admitted the physical toll was brutal, that the weight loss shook him, that he faced demons of illness that tested every ounce of his body. But instead of letting pain define him, he leaned on scripture, prayer, and purpose. He didn't post for pity, he posted for strength. His messages weren't cries for help. They were declarations that God wasn't finished with him yet. And that's what critics fail to understand. You can't outtalk someone who walks with divine purpose. You can't cancel someone who already knows he's chosen. If a white coach posted a video with country singers rallying at his ranch, the headlines would have been filled with compassion. But when Lil Wayne shows up for Prime, suddenly it's, is he serious about coaching? That's not a question, it's coded dismissal. They've always been uncomfortable with Deion, not because he's cocky, but because he's free. Free to talk about God, free to walk with rappers, free to celebrate himself in a space that demands black coaches shrink themselves. But Deion won't shrink, he expands. And that freedom is threatening. It forces a reckoning. When Sanders speaks, people roll their eyes. But his players? They listen. They believe. He has transformed a one-win program into a cultural revolution, not with playbooks, but with conviction. Belief. And belief is more powerful than schemes. Even while recovering away from Colorado, his fingerprints remained. The staff echoed his mantras. The players repeated his words. His daily posts from Texas weren't just updates. They were lifelines. Messages to his team. I'm still with you. I haven't quit, and neither should you. Colorado needs Deion Sanders, not just because he can call plays, but because he embodies a new standard. Before him, the program drifted. Empty stands, absent headlines, no pulse. Then Prime walked in, and the air changed. Relevance returned. Identity returned. Pride returned. Even in absence, his presence remains the heartbeat of Boulder. And when he finally walks back into that locker room, whether limping or not, everything will shift. Not because he's fully healed, but because his presence is healing in itself. And that is why the critics will never understand. This isn't about football anymore. This is about leadership, authenticity, and rebellion against an old system. Deion Sanders is more than a coach. He's a disruption. He's a movement. He's a symbol of what happens when you refuse to be boxed in. The media tried to write his ending, but the pen is still in his hand. And if history has shown us anything, it's that primetime doesn't end when the crowd leaves. It just gets louder. They said he left HBCUs behind. They said he wouldn't survive in Power 5 football. They said illness would sideline him for good. But all those statements are built on fear. Fear of a man who represents a future they cannot control. A future where young black coaches don't need to dim their light to be respected. A future where authenticity trumps conformity. Prime isn't chasing approval, he's building legacy. And the Lil Wayne video, that wasn't for the doubters. That was a signal to his believers, a message to his players, his fans, his family. The king is alive. The mission continues. And the story is far from over. Doubt him all you want. Whisper your rumors. Hope he fades. But remember this, Deion Sanders is built on something you can't cancel. Purpose. And purpose doesn't limp. Purpose doesn't retreat. Purpose rises, no matter how heavy the storm.